Among the fabled game fish of the sea, none is more highly regarded among sportsmen than the giant bluefin tuna. And here, 50 miles east of Miami, running past Bimini and Cat Key, is the Bluefin's underwater freeway.
Bimini and Cat Cay are two islands located in the Bahamas, separated by only 8 miles. They share a rich history as hubs for big game fishing, but especially bluefin tuna.
Today, we're after one of the world's greatest sporting fish, the bluefin tuna.
Ask anybody that's done a lot of marlin fishing or tuna fishing, they'll tell you if you really want something to pull on, the tuna is the fish that's going to give you the workout.
One of the most elusive and powerful beasts in the sea. These monsters can grow as large as 1,500 pounds and swim up to 50 miles per hour.
The tuna is one of the most powerful things on earth. I went out to try to catch one time. We didn't have a bite, but after talking to a friend of mine, I don't think I want to try it.
In the 1930s, my grandfather, Ernest Hemingway, was among the first to battle these monster fish in the waters near Bimini. He helped launch sport fishing in a big way in the Bahamas. The birth and the golden age of big game fishing happened right here, near these two tiny islands in the Bahamas.
And over here is Tuna Alley, one of the most famous stretches of fishing water in the world. A bright white sandy bottom.
Fishermen competed with each other for glory and for bragging rights. By the 1950s and 60s, bluefin tuna fishing tournaments were booming near Tuna Alley. These elite events put big game fishing on the map and into the mainstream. As the 20th century marched on, the tuna population shrunk and the economies of Bimini and Cat Cay reacted in very different ways.
Cat is a private island, which is still, the allure of Cat is still there. Lush palms, well-kept grounds, opulence. And Bimini's economy has gone downhill. There's been a lot of talk about the demise of the bluefin fishery. I still think the fish are there. I think if people were putting in the time that they used to put in over there in Tuna Alley, I think you'd hear more reports of fish being caught.
In the early years, 1951 or 52, we caught loads of tunas up there.
My granddad, I've been trying to get him to come over here the last few years with me to fish for bluefin. He said there's no more fish out there to be caught. You can't, there's nothing there. It's not worth doing. This year, I want to go over there and prove my granddad and dad wrong about the fishery being dead.
The kid down there, my son has heard about catching tunas all his life in Cat Key. We know the chances are kind of rare, but just the thought of getting 3 generations together, catching a big fish on our own boat, we thought was real special.
It means the world to me to carry on our fishing traditions. We haven't caught a bluefin for 35 years. Hopefully this year will be different for us.
Cat Cay is the richest island, I believe, in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe one of the richest islands in the world because everybody's a millionaire. Whereas in Bimini, Bimini is mostly settled by runaway slaves, shipwrecked passengers. My family's been in Bimini for 200 years. Part of the early settlers. This is where it all started. Our forefathers came here to salvage wrecked ships, and this is a good example why people came to Bimini to settle. Fishing in the Bimini was primitive. Big game fishing was not part of their way of life until Ernest Hemingway came here and changed all that. Bimini was catching fish, mind you, before Hemingway came, but not big fish. Fish were breaking the rods, and all the tunas were being eaten by sharks. And all that changed when Ernest Hemingway came here and taught the people how to catch a large fish.
Hemingway, he was the first one I know that got one over here.
He popularized the island, and he brought big game fishing in for the last 75 years or more. The whole economy of Bimini is because of Ernest Hemingway.
Bimini, island paradise in the Bahamas at the edge of the blue Gulf Stream. Famous for giant tuna.
Now, Bimini basically was known as the big game fishing capital of the world.
They come from Cuba and all over the world to fish here because it was the best fishing in the world.
We had anglers here from England, South Africa, even Nigeria.
The tuna were thick as flies or fleas on a dog, and they were all hungry.
It was pretty much a heyday. The land of the rich and famous then.
Multi-millionaires coming from all over, the Fords, the Mellons, the Rockefellers.
It was something else over here. And around 5, 6 o'clock to see all the members coming down, evening dresses and the tuxedos. They come down for cocktails.
In the heyday of fishing over in the Bimini and Cat Cay tournaments, it was on par with the NASCAR Championship, with the Super Bowl, with the World Series. It truly was the epitome of big game fishing. You had larger-than-life captains fishing both tournaments. Guys were wearing ties inside the club. It was more social back then. Boats were talking to other boats. People were walking the docks.
We knew all of those fishermen by the first name, and they knew us by the first name.
You could see the natives walking down around 4 o'clock because they knew when the boats would be coming back in from fishing.
Everybody came down, don't care where he was living on the island, he came out to see that.
An average day on the dock, there'd probably be 20, 30, or 40 giant tuna laid on the dock.
Most of the yachtsmen didn't even want tunas. They left the tunas on the dock for the natives. Each individual, if they wanted, could have gotten a whole tuna.
Sometimes they came in here with like 10, 11 a day. They just had to take a big dump truck and take them to the end of the island and dump them over there because there's too many tuna.
Bimini is right on the route of the tunas.
That's the only area they come in close to the shore.
It's just called Tuna Alley. It looks like an alley.
It separates the reef from the deep blue, which is the Gulf Stream, and it just happens to be snow white sand. So when these bluefins come out of the deep blue, their backs are black.
They look like a giant torpedo coming down the waves, and, you know, they're just a big, massive fish.
A school of giant bluefins cruising over the coral reef. Yeah, big fish all right.
When they used to come, those schools would be one right after another there for hours.
It spawns mostly in the Gulf of Mexico and then passes by the Straits of Florida and up the Gulf Stream on its way to the North Atlantic. A highly migratory species.
You know, the tuna goes around the whole world once a year. Comes up through the Gulf of Mexico and right past Bimini every year. In late April, May, and middle June.
And every June, sport fishermen come to Bimini to pit their skill and strength against this big, speedy fish.
In the 60s, you had a lot of people target tuna as the #1 fish in the entire world that they wanted to catch.
In those days, in the 50s and 60s, they had a great tuna tournament.
That would be probably a minimum of 35 or 40 boats fishing in this tournament.
fighting flag means we're tied to tuna. All boats stay clear. Run up the flag. One tuna brought alongside and released.
If a boat had 6 flags hoisted, it meant that the boat had 6 bluefins on.
1, 2, 6. 6 giant tuna in one day.
No boat had less than 2 black guides as key men on those tuna boats. And it was socializing between the tourists and the natives was greater in those days.
It was a great thing to see, you know, it was a real sport.
Tuna fishing was for bragging rights. I don't think there was a whole lot of cash going on.
It was more just about the sport of catching the fish, and who could catch the most and who could bring those back to the dock was the top dog.
Today we'll watch the angling techniques of sportsman Bill Carpenter.
The most consistent winner was a man named Bill Carpenter, who my dad fished all the time. They were the most consistent winners.
We were the top dog over here. We caught 15 of them one day. It was a big, big, big deal.
The Merritt used to be one of the leading top fishermen in those days.
Well, when you tuna fish, you have to know the Merritt family. Alan Merritt and his brother were the best tuna fishermen in their time fishing out of Cat Key.
My Uncle Buddy was my granddad's mentor, and he taught him a lot.
My father and my uncle were great tuna fishermen. A lot of innovations came from their techniques and what they developed.
Alan Merritt was a dominant force in sport fishing many, many years before I was born.
In my lifetime, I must have caught at least 300 or 400 giant tunas. Pretty soon, he's going to have the flag on his shoulder. So it behooves him to pay attention. That's something that isn't just handed to you, something you work for. And believe me, it was work for everything we did.
We started building our boats geared towards fishing for the bluefin, didn't we?
Yep.
My dad and myself, our tuna fishing days were probably coming to an end in the late 70s as the fishing was starting to tail off real bad. And another reason, it was your work demands are a lot more. It's hard to find time to take off. When the fishing dries up, you don't feel like going as much. And every boat will get sensitive with weight in the nose of it. So my son, he's going to lead us into another step of boat building. If it wasn't for him leading us in that direction, I might get there, but it might be real slow. But he's pushing everybody, pushing me.
Now's the time to do it if you're going to do it. I feel that it's kind of my job to kind of bring a different perspective. Since I'm always the one bringing in the newer technology, sometimes there's a little resistance for it.
I can't imagine you could build this thing any lighter than what we've built it.
He's questioned me a lot about, why are we doing this and that? And I can't always give him a perfect answer.
No, absolutely not.
What why we couldn't use a hydraulic?
No.
It's just too much power?
Get it light so you don't have to use a heavy adjustment to make the door work. And then as tuna fishing dried up, people started going to more faraway places. They want a larger boat to go there on. They like to live on the boats. As the engines got bigger, the boats got bigger.
This is an 86-footer.
The boats now are just getting larger and larger and larger, and they're no longer tuna boats.
The Merritt boats are one of the most beautiful sport fishing boats. Every piece of the way that boat is built was based on what's going to be best to catch a tuna.
If you wanted to catch a tuna, you had to have one of these Merritt boats.
The tuna tower actually was started by my uncle, and he started with the mast, and then he put controls on the mast.
When I started fishing, there was only one guy up in the tower. That cage up there was just big enough for a person.
When the tower came along, more people got to catch more fish, so therefore, more people wanted to fish. The sport really took off.
We got very famous for building a very special boat that is still the most precious boat to be had in the sport fishing world.
The great fishermen used to stay here. See some of the barracudas on the wall there. I remember Bimini when we had 100 big game fishing guides were on this island, 100 or more. Now you can't find 10. The natives of Bimini is not going after the fish trade.
There's not a need for guides. There's not a need for boat captains. Without fishermen who have supported these islands for years, I don't know what the future is going to hold.
Young man, young woman, it's time to come to Jesus. Hallelujah.
We had a drug running era here, which a lot of people got involved in because of the quick dollar. And that took away a lot of the people that would have ordinarily gone into big game fishing.
I think every year that goes by, there's fewer and fewer people who even talk about bluefin tuna. When you come over for a week and never see a school of tuna debate, you don't want to come back. You lose your interest.
It's a challenge finding people that want to do it, you know. You got to come here and put your time in and spend money and be patient.
That interest and that effort has dwindled over the last 15, 20 years.
The new generation is into mostly nightlife, raising hell, checking out the town, and, you know, tomorrow morning you can't wake up.
I don't see much of the young people into tuna. Most will come is the old timers. A lot of the younger folks I haven't seen in the big fish. Some years go by, you don't see no tuna at all.
It just seemed like an endless supply of them. You won't see it anymore. You won't see it anymore. They've been harvested too much to ever come up with those numbers again.
They're probably the most sought-after fish. They're obviously the most valuable fish per pound. Most of the entire world wants to catch bluefin tunas.
It brought in Norwegians and Japanese with long lines, long nets. And they used to haul the tunas right in Bimini waters. And we didn't have a defense force back then or any means of stopping them. And they're the ones who really wipe out the tunas. Not what we were catching or not what the sport fishermen has been catching.
From the heyday to about the early 80s, the stock of the fishery went way down, and it made it to where it wasn't even worth coming over here looking for them anymore.
There's a general consensus that there's been an overfishing of the particular species for some time now. I don't think people are going over there for the season anymore looking for them.
The last time we caught a tuna fish would have been in the early 70s. My dad and I, my son wasn't born then.
In the last 5 years that I know of, there hasn't been a single fish caught.
Cat Key is a special island for us.
Cat Key and Bimini have been a part of my family's history. I would love to see the tuna fishing come back to its glory day.
Today's different. They're under pressure for the sake of the fishery and the challenges that bluefins have faced. Catch and release is the only option.
It's something that I want to make sure that is there for my kids and future generations.
This stuff here can all go from that 4 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, it looked like there was quite a bit of room up there.
I want to go over there this year and catch a fish. You know, I want to kind of carry on that legacy.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there.
This year, I think we're going to be true sportsmen, sport fishermen, and go over there and fish for the sport. It would be pretty neat to start seeing an effort over there where it's not all about lining a bunch of fish up on the dock. It's more about going over there for the experience of catching one. And I think that fad could come back if bluefin stock keeps coming back like it seems like it has been the last couple of years.
You know, there's more of an awareness now that tag and release does matter. It's just a different world now, you know. It'd be cool if this could take off again. I just think it's such a cool fish and a great fishery, you know. Only one way to find out.
A tuna is very powerful. You have to know what you're doing to catch them.
First of all, you have to start out with a good boat. The next thing is you have to have a good crew, and I think we got one. Ray hasn't had the tuna fishing experience, but he's a great fisherman.
It's been 33 years since I started working with Bill, and I've wanted to tuna fish with him from the beginning because it was the fish that captivated him the most.
I've known Ray since he was too young to drive. I have watched him through his years become a phenomenal fisherman.
The planning for the trip took place over a couple years, actually. We probably had 4 or 5 trips that were scheduled and things fell apart. Imagine all those years of anticipation. Here we are on the Caliban with the Merritts, and I was excited.
I think everyone down in the cockpit and inside the boat was just so happy to finally leave the dock. You can't catch a tuna unless you go fishing. Here we go. My feelings of tuna fishing out of Cat Key with a very limited window of opportunity, I think the odds are against us.
I talked with my granddad about going over there. Let's just say he had a very pessimistic view on going over there again and hooking up with the bluefin. It was next to impossible in his mind.
The hopes may have been high, but the real truth of the matter is it's going to be very, very slim. You could almost guarantee that there wouldn't be a fish caught.
Yesterday we had several bunches of over 100 fish. You know, if you look at the record books from the old days of how many were caught by each boat, and you know, it's definitely not the same, but it's still worth coming.
I forgot John was over here. He just told me he saw like 250 fish today, so there is hope for us. We might see one tomorrow.
Great, thanks on that. We're getting ready to leave the dock.
Well, we're fishing out of Cat Key, and we're getting ready to head offshore to the west and try to find some tunas.
Yeah. Gonna have a big day.
Get them beauties.
My dad's, he's 90 now, and he's always full of stories. He's seen a lot.
Doesn't necessarily feel that much here. That line will never break up here. It always breaks down there. Yeah. Always.
I think having young Roy in the chair is very special to me because I have someone who wants to fulfill a legacy. He's not there just to catch a fish.
We got him coming. We got one.
And I've never caught a bluefin before, so I was excited and a little bit nervous.
Go!
But going over there with the 3 generations, I felt like I had a lot riding on my shoulders. I want to catch one over here to show my granddad that you still can catch them over here.
How many, Amanda?
A lot.
I like that.
Bill's job is to make sure that the boat is in the right place at the right time.
It takes a lot of skill to line the boat up with the fish and not run the line over.
A good captain will know where the bait is even if he can't see it. He just knows where it's supposed to be.
First mate's basically, I'm the whipping boy. I take orders from Bill.
The mate is going to get the bait overboard while the angler puts the bait out to a given mark.
Second mark, second black mark. There's a single and the second mark.
The next person of importance is going to be the spotter who rides next to me, and that was Amanda.
Well, I kind of got put on the tuna boat as the spotter, and they kind of explained what that meant, and I had a rough idea of what that meant, but I'd never really seen a giant bluefin tuna. It was scary.
Bill, we may have had a cuda bite here. Wind it up. Okay.
Barracuda wanted it more than the tuna.
The bad part of a migrating group of fish is they're not there to eat. They're there to get north as fast as they can, and very rarely do they eat.
When you're not seeing the fish, it's really painful. wascally wabbits.
Nothing, huh?
Nothing.
You know, you've got all the people in place. You're on the perfect boat with the perfect team, and everybody's trying as hard as they can. And when it doesn't happen, you struggle.
They're not stopping, they're not feeding, they're just moving on. A lot of people can catch them up north where you troll, if they bite, but when you fish from Cat Keys, to catch one, you're pretty lucky.
There are boats, several that I know, that have spent 3, 4, 5 years to catch one. That's a lot of days and a lot of time and a lot of money. The wind's wrong here now.
This weather here is probably the poorest thing you can have to catch a fish right now. We should have strong southeast and south winds. We don't have them.
I should have got my whole rain suit.
Today the wind was due west, and that is not our best wind. We prefer to have a wind somewhere from the southwest to the southeast, which helps the fish to come to the top of the water and ride the waves on their northerly migration.
This water is wound up kind of funny.
It's almost like what we have is a confused ocean.
Bluefin tunas in the Bahamas require the right conditions. You got to have the right wind direction, wind speed, watercolor, current, and visibility. You know, you need the weather to make the fish really move and show themselves. You know, try to keep everything centered and balanced. The last thing you want is to throw this bait out there and he doesn't swim right. He spins, you know, doesn't do the right thing. He's got to look alive. Everybody's just kind of getting started after the rain, so nobody's done anything. One boat saw 2 fish this morning, but it was so dark they were under his bow when he saw them, so he spooked them. They never saw them again.
Well, the biggest challenge would be to have good light so you can see them. We got a real good shot of catching them if we can see them.
Blue marlin fishing or black marlin fishing, you can catch them when it's pouring rain. You can catch them when the clouds block the sun. You can put it on automatic pilot and go down and have lunch and catch them. You don't have to be up in the tower looking at them. You don't have to have the skill to see them, to bait them, to maneuver once you're hooked.
We got them. We got fish now. He just saw them.
Yeah, you ready? Man. They're right there.
Fish are flying, huh?
Flying. One of them just came up in a wave and, like, you know, showed his whole body. Beautiful. It all comes down to the moment where the fish are in sight. Bill's making the pass, you throw the bait. All you want is the bite.
You lost them.
There were a pair of fish, and by the time they got back around on them, they never saw them again, so.
Never saw them after we came back around. It happens frequently early in the morning. We might see hundreds of tunas before we get a strike.
I saw 3 and thought I saw a 4th one, but I'm not sure if there were more.
Cat key fishing can be very frustrating because there's a lot of time spent where you don't see anything, or if you do see a fish, doesn't mean they're going to bite. Conditions have got to be just right.
Well, I'm very happy to be here because I enjoy it, but I'm always frustrated we can't catch one every day and keep everybody happy. But that's what it's called, fishing and not catching.
You got everything? Well, better find out.
Good day to catch a tuna.
Boy, I think we've hit a good day. I think we're gonna catch some tunas today.
We get up that morning, the conditions are perfect. We're all excited. We can't find Roy Jr. And we check in his boat where he was sleeping, and he is sick as a dog. You know, it was a little nerve-wracking because you've assembled this team and you put all this effort into this trip. Is he gonna be able to fight this fish? This bluefin tuna are monsters.
We got the wind. We're gonna be coming today.
It's
a big fish, 40 fish here, yeah.
Oh my God, they're everywhere.
Game on, boys. Get in the chair, get your harness on. Tell me when to throw. How you feel?
I was feeling so ill that, you know, I was telling him, I said, go ahead without me, and Bill encouraged me to come along. He's coming up toward you, he's coming this way too. Looking for him to come out and pile on this thing.
Tell me when to throw.
Go ahead. Throw it?
No. I can't explain how badly you want that fish to bite. The bottom line is you're one bite away from one of the most memorable fish of your life. Get ready. Come on. Come on. 40 or 50 fish. Holy cow, come on. Go! Got him! Got him! Yeah! Woo! Did you see that bite?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay, go, go, go. Wow!
I spotted the school and said, Bill, there they are. And Bill immediately turned on the school.
Once we hook up, it's a high-speed chase because the fish is going frequently more than 20 miles an hour. And we come up on the fish and we shorten the distance between the boat and the fish.
Yeah, just let us know for the
fish is up on top of the water.
I went from feeling very nauseous and ill to, you know, it was game on.
When he gets down deep, we'll get him shortened up.
It's more about technique than it is strength. There's a time to just let the fish go, and there's a time to work on
Can I
them.
get you a couple cookies or something, seriously, for your sugar? He was as sick as I've ever seen him. I mean, he was laying down, except when it was time to bait a fish. And I don't know that I've ever fished with anybody in that condition.
You see his tail out of water.
When you're locked into the fighting chair there, the fish pulling you up off the seat is a pretty exhilarating feeling. You kind of get a sense of the real power of the fish. Hey, you guys want that Gatorade?
Yeah.
I just want to get this fish.
He's close. He's within 100 feet or so. Nothing rivals the power and size of the potential that a bluefin tuna has. They're just magnificent fish. Doing good, buddy. I don't know of another fish that pulls that hard, and it's a thrill. Okay, get ready. He's coming up right here.
Oh, he's shaking his head. Don't watch it when you grab him.
That close, buddy. We're gonna get him.
Now the bait's got a real problem because when he grabs the wire and the fish goes down on the pinwheel, he's got to hold on as hard as he can.
Okay, his head's gonna come up. Everybody ready?
Right here. Right here.
That's a nice fish.
That was awesome.
It kicked my ass. I already had a cold kick in my ass. Now that thing really kicked my ass. Catching the fish on the last day was really quite special. Just to kind of show my granddad that I inherited some of his fish catching abilities.
What can I say? It just happened, you know, as perfectly as it could have. The fish did everything he was supposed to do.
I look forward to coming back.
That was awesome.
I have the belief that we can come over here and start being successful again at it.
The tuna they caught was very good for the island. A lot of people get to see it in the news, and where's Cat Key? we want to go over there to catch a tuna.
Crystal clear blue ocean meets the sky, seabirds flying ever so high. Lovers walking quietly, the beautiful island of Bimini.
Bimini is beautiful. That's all I can say in one word.
Fishing is just kind of, this is something we both enjoy doing, so I want to pass on my fishing skills to my son. Oh, are they after you there? You got him. There you go. You got a little amberjack.